Well, it's now 7 p.m. We'll call tonight's Conservation Commission meeting to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The first item we have on tonight's agenda is the open session citizen concerns. If there's something that's not on tonight's agenda and you'd like to bring that to the commission's attention, just please raise your hand, give us your name and address, come forward to the podium, and we'll entertain any of those questions or comments that you may have. All right, nothing tonight on that aspect. So we're moving right along. We move on to our regulatory hearings. And we do have a number of hearings this evening that are scheduled. The first one is a notice of intent, a rehearing with respect to 127 Parker Road. Do we have a legal notice to read again into the record, Mr.
Yes,
Clerk?
we do, Mr. Commissioner. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in Room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, at 7 p.m. to consider the notice of intent filed by property owner Spiros Bensakos for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 127 Parker Road, further identified as Map 102, Block 401, Lot 11 on the Chelmsford Assessor's Maps. The project entails construction of attached garage and breezeway addition with a second floor limited accessory apartment to an existing single-family dwelling along with associated site improvements, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So now we'll open up the hearing, and we'll have an overview from the applicant to describe the proposed work to the commission. Sir, your name and
Good evening, David Beati, representing Mr. Skanzakis, who is not with us tonight. He's not feeling well. Actually, he's out in the car. He could come in if we need him, but it's best he stay out there tonight, I think. So yes.
He's got the heat on.
Yeah, it's a proposed accessory, limited accessory apartment for his mom to move in upstairs through the attached garage, which will be connected to the house. And yeah, the rear of the structure lies approximately 72 feet from the edge of the wetlands. We have filed a notice of intent and a storm scepter for some stormwater mitigation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. So let's see if we have some questions or comments from the commissioners. We'll start right here with actually Chris first.
Is there a plan, Mr. Chairman? Or?
Yes, I do have plans. I can pass those around.
Can I ask the question, why are we doing this again?
Yeah, we already did this.
And I can answer that. It's because the abutters weren't notified prior to the last hearing. So this hearing really is, and the commission did, as you recall, you did vote to approve it on November 16th. So, but by law and the regulations, the abutters need to be notified. So this hearing, I think it's fair to say this hearing is really for the benefit of the abutters, since the commission already approved it. But I can certainly pass around plans. And I certainly don't disagree with that decision. I think this is certainly something that the commission can and should approve.
You know, in fact, Mr. Kuntz, might be good just to take a moment and just kind of, again, just expand upon that a little bit for the commission, give everyone a chance to look at the plan again. But, yeah, it was a legal technicality, really. The green cards, for whatever reason, they didn't get out. And obviously important to do everything legal. So we had to get the refiling and take it from there.
I remember it was not a problem.
Anything else you want to add?
I really don't have anything to add. I mean,
All right.
it's
Is there
very
anything
simple.
different from the last time?
No, it's exactly the same.
Same
Are
project.
there any abutters?
Well,
Yeah.
that's a question, I guess.
Well, I mean, Chris, I don't think you were here for that hearing, so you may have some questions, but we're familiar certainly with the site. But Chris, do you need a moment or two? If not, if you need a moment, we can.
Yeah,
see if we have some.
if you can just give me a moment.
All right, let's see if we have any abutters that are present, perhaps with questions, while Chris reviews the plans. Is there anybody that's present for this project that has some questions for the applicant or for the commission? No, okay, all right, so we'll just take a moment and take a look at the plan again. Good, and, Mr. Coons, we had some conditions, as I remember last time as well. Can you refresh my mind on what those conditions were?
It was to, I believe it was to delineate, let me just do it myself. It was,
I don't think there were.
No, I think you're
we
correct.
issued the standard order of conditions at that,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we still do not have any,
You know, Dave, I think the only condition we had was we wanted a confirmation on the green card notice.
That's right. It was the other one, it was 44 Davis
Right.
Road, there were a
we
number
were
of special
pending
conditions.
DEP, we were pending response from DEP because we hadn't had one at that point.
Yeah,
It may be a DEP file number,
and
perhaps.
which they have assigned.
Yeah, all right. Chris, anything?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Good, all right. Anybody, questions, comments?
I'm all set.
All right, good. Well, then, let's have a motion to close the public hearing then.
Oh, really? So move we close the public
So
hearing.
move, second on that?
Second.
Second, Bill, all those in favor of closing the hearing? Aye. Any opposed? None unanimous. All right, so we're looking here at a notice of intent. There's been no indication we need any special conditions.
I move we issue an order of conditions on 127 Parker with our standard conditions and no special conditions.
Thanks. Dave, second on that?
Second.
Bill on the second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right, you're all set, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, the second item that we have on tonight's agenda is a notice of intent with respect to 30 Russell Road. We'll have a legal notice for this as well, Mr. Clerk.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in Room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, at 7:05 p.m. 7:05, to consider the notice of intent filed by property owner Don Lee for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zones to bordering vegetated wetlands and bank, Freeman Lake, at 30 Russell Road, further identified as map 12, block 30, lot 6 on the Chelmsford Assessor's maps. The project entails construction of an addition with attached garage to an existing single-family dwelling, along with driveway access and retaining wall. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Philip Iliopoulos. I'm an attorney here in Chelmsford. Office is at 9 North Road. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Tan Lee. I'm also joined by his engineer, Hushiaf Shah, that will be up in a few minutes, just to kind of walk you through the plan. Just from a preliminary standpoint, what's before you today in terms of the purpose is almost identical to the application you just heard. Currently, there's an existing dwelling on the property that my client and his family live in with his mother. The idea would be to build a second unit, make it a two-family, which is an allowed use in an RC zone, so that his mother would remain in the existing property.
Excuse me, I think the notice, the paperwork said it's a single-family home.
It's a single-family home currently, so the purpose of the addition, we're building an addition to the
No, but what
property.
was on the pieces, on the documents that were submitted to us, it said checked off single-family, correct?
Yes.
I mean, I don't believe so, I don't have it in front of me, but it is, the nature is to build a second structure on the property and a attached garage.
Well, that's not a conservation issue. but-
No,
but
no,
it
I
may
just wanted to
be-
give you the background.
It may be a separate issue for your client.
Yeah, well, it is an allowed use under the RC zone. I just wanted to give you a little bit of reason why the application is before you. The purpose of being before the commission is about 1,000 square feet of this new construction will be within the 100-foot buffer zone. All of it will be outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. And if you look at the plan, there's a private way as well as an extension of his driveway across the private way adjacent to Freeman Lake. So you already have impervious within 50 feet of the lake itself. So all of the activity that will be proposed will take place farther away from the wetland in already what's disturbed areas. So why don't I invite Hushi to come up? He'll walk you through the plan, the conservation issues, and how we propose to make improvements to the site to improve what's already there today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't know how to turn that on. But everyone has copies of the plans, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Hushman Afshar from Taj Engineering LLC. As it was pointed out, this is the heavy line is the property line. As you can see, a good portion of the Russell Road lies within the property of the applicant, and the entire site is disturbed in the sense that the existing house is between the 50.
Anyone in the audience need a copy of the plans?
Between the 50 and 100-foot buffer zone. The highlighted yellow area is the only area of the proposed improvements on the property that lies within the 100-foot buffer. As you can see, the pink line is the 100-foot buffer, and that 1,000 about 1,000 square foot is much closer actually within the 100-foot buffer line. We are proposing, this is the house, this is the garage, this is the breezeway, and this is the driveway. We are proposing a underground leaching chamber, retention and infiltration right here at the end of the driveway. There is a trench drain right here that collects any surface runoff from driveway. And also there is another system right here in front of the garage in the paved apron that collects the roof drains, and that is also, these systems are a retention infiltration system. These systems are precast. They are 10.5 by 5.5 by 4 feet with 2 feet of crushed stone all around. So together they can collect over probably 7,200 gallons. The retaining walls are shown in black line, dark line here. They are very short retaining walls. They could be just a landscape block, 1 to 2 foot, 1 to 3 foot wall. This one, at one point, this one is 1 to 4. But they are, this portion is beyond, out of the buffer zone, and these are the things that once we go through building department, they will review all the walls and structural issues. Other than that, I guess the floor is open for any questions.
Thank you, Hushi. One procedural matter, we did get a letter that came into the commission today, which I'd like to put into the record. It's rather lengthy documents. I'm not going to read the entire letter, but I'll summarize the letter, and we will take the whole letter into the file. The commission will have a chance to, commissioners will look at it. But basically, it was to the town and Chelmsford Conservation Commission. We, the undersigned, are writing to you regarding proposed activity at 30 Russell Road. We are concerned about not only the detrimental effects the proposed activity will have on our wetlands, but we are concerned about the detrimental effects on the wetlands we have already seen due to the work the applicant has already commenced, and presumption his proposal will be approved by the Conservation Commission. It then covers some commentary regarding prior alterations and disturbances, rather lengthy description, and it then goes on, again, commentary around the retaining wall, and it there's a number of concerns stated here. There's commentary around site plans, again, concerns about retaining walls in particular, and the safety of retaining walls, And the conclusion is that that we believe the proposed activity will have significant or cumulative effect on the values protected by the chapter, and that's our wetlands chapter, at the site or proximal to the site. And we believe the proposed plans presented by the applicant and Taj Engineering will not prove beyond preponderance of the evidence that the minimal flood prevention, leaching chambers, erosion prevention, retaining walls, which we believe will lead to more flooding issues, will not have a detrimental effect on the wetlands in the area. Therefore, we request that the commission deny the permit required for the applicant to build within or alter the buffer zone, or minimum request the commission limit the alteration of the buffer zone to minimize the loss of nature in the resource area, as well as minimize the negative effects of flooding, erosion, sedimentation issues, and destruction of wildlife habitats. And there's, again, a number of signatures from abutters, neighboring abutters. So we'll place this letter in the record and be sure to have the commissioners all have copies of that, as well as any concerned parties will certainly have access to that letter as well. Let's see now what we have for commission questions at this point, and we'll start to the left here with Mr. Timola.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have some questions on the plans with regards to the design, some considerable, what I would say, concerns. There are two leaching basins being proposed. Have there been any test pits out there to determine seasonal high water table?
It's on the hill, it's high, but it was based on the record information.
But if you look at the leaching basin that's near the roadway, that looks like that's, so based on your plan, it's got a rim of 134.2, just doing some calculations. I would be curious to know what your seasonal high offset is from the water table, just based on the location of that basin and the lake itself. It looks like the bottom of that might actually be below the lake elevation. Without having any test pits, it's impossible to really verify that. So I would definitely recommend some test pits be performed in those two locations. I believe this applicant was before us for an RDA.
That's correct. That's correct.
And I think at that time, there were some discussions by the abutters with regards to the house number 24 and some possible wetlands that may be or may not be behind that wetlands, that house.
We delineated that, it's shown here.
Okay, so
And-
those are the wetlands that were previously discussed at the RDA?
Correct,
Okay.
yes, that was delineated, added to the plan. As you can see, only the corner of the driveway, the highlighted yellow, falls within the 100-foot buffer.
Okay.
And regarding to your question, we are about 5 feet above about 6 feet actually, beyond the beach, the closest contour at the beach.
Right, but if you look at your detail, not to argue that, if you look at your detail, the rim minus a foot of cover, minus 3 feet for the structure, minus 2 feet for the stone, you're down 6 feet at that point there. So you would potentially be right at the water elevation, and then you still need your 2 feet of separation to seasonal high. So you really need that test pit to be down
Yeah,
at least
okay.
8 feet, or 8 feet to seasonal high at that point for that to actually work.
Yeah, we could
The-
do that.
The dimension the dimension shown on the plan says 89.9 feet is the closest location to the wetlands. I really don't believe that's the right dimension.
Well, this is just distance to the closest flag, to the nearest flag.
Okay.
As you know, the criteria is really the buffer zone, which
Sure.
is clearly shown here.
All right. And I think there were some concerns by the abutters at the last meeting as well with regards to some runoff patterns. Looking at the plan along the southern side of the proposed building, it looks like there's a graded swale that kind of goes towards the south, and I would be concerned with runoff getting onto the abutter's property with that drainage swale.
No, actually, the runoff comes towards the applicant's house. And, right now, the runoff comes sheet flow just down the hill. If anything, we want to say the situation is getting improved and enhanced because the post-construction what is proposed in terms of these leaching galleys is better than the before. There is nothing to control the flow, at least with what we are proposing to control a good amount of the flow is being controlled now and detained.
Okay.
And as you can see, the direction of the flow is towards the applicant's property. It's deviated from the abutter. It's in this direction.
Well, there's actually, in that same general area, the way the contour is shown, it's shown that there's a swale. The little U-shaped outline of the contour.
Correct. It
right.
comes here, but then this contour, it's coming this way. It's not, right now, the existing contours are like this, in this direction, as you can see in the background. That in this way, it's going uphill.
The way I'm looking at it, it looks like it's downhill, so you may just want to reevaluate that and take a closer look at that. And then I would also have some concerns over the actual retaining wall. It looks like it's a two-tiered retaining wall.
Are you talking about the proposed one or the ones that?
The retaining wall's in the front.
Not the one that's on site?
No. Well, it looks like there's an existing, maybe a stone wall along the
Yeah.
front, and then there's a
Yes.
proposed one behind
You're
that.
talking about the new ones?
I would be concerned with both of them.
Okay.
So that's, I guess,
Just so we can know for next time, what would be the concern about the retaining wall?
I would just be concerned about the actual structural ability of that retaining wall to function.
You mean the ones which is within the buffer zone?
Just all the retaining walls on site. My experience is that if you have a retaining wall that's close to another retaining wall, there's potential for that to have an impact on that existing wall. So just from a structural point of view, I would be concerned that,
Oh, I'm
with
just
that.
sure that the building department would require the stamp plans, properly structurally designed, which has to happen. Otherwise, the applicant will not get his construction permit.
Anything else, Chris?
I think that's all I have for now.
All right, very good. All right, moving along. Mr. McLaughlin?
In the letter you read, Chris,
Yes.
the authors of the letter suggested or said there's activity happening on the site presently, is that correct? I think they said that in the letter. Are they here tonight by any chance? Is that true?
Yeah, it's referring to the retaining wall he put up and then.
No, the statement in the letter.
Hold on, Dave, let's kind of keep this under control.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I wasn't.
What's your name and address, please?
My name's Emily Madden, I'm at 16 Russell Road.
Okay, good.
So my question is there activity on the site presently?
Not right now. I'm sorry if that.
Okay, thank you.
If that was written.
Let me focus on the runoff, if we might. I think Chris touched on how the retaining walls are going to be built, and that's a fair question. You've got two you've got two leaching chambers, right?
Yes.
Can you describe to me how the runoff from that site gets to those two leaching chambers?
The one here in front of the garage, the roof drains all the roof drains end up into this leaching
So
chamber.
there are 4 roof drains on the house, and how many on the garage?
2 from the 2 sides.
Okay, so there's 6 roof drains going into that chamber in the front?
Well, two from here, 2 from this building, or whatever. Yeah, they all are going into this chamber. That's
So
correct.
6 roof drains are going into the chamber in front of the house?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. And how about the other chamber?
The other chamber is collecting anything that comes down the driveway before even coming to the property line. The trench drain catches that.
All right, now how about behind the proposed house, there's a significant elevation change. It goes from at least 147 down to, well, maybe the driveway, 132.
You mean right here?
Yeah, it goes from 147 down to the elevate, I take up those numbers of 130, 131, 132 on the driveway, those are elevation numbers?
That's correct.
Okay, so you've got a runoff from the back of the house from 147 feet to about I'll give the best bet is 133. So you got a 15 feet of slope. Where's all that runoff going?
The existing runoff comes just down the hill as it is.
Once the house is built, where is the runoff going to go to?
From behind,
Yeah,
from behind the house, anything behind this proposed retaining wall will go, part of it comes through this soil, and part of it comes here over the wall onto the driveway
So-
into this leaching.
so none or very little of it is going into the chambers.
Well, this part is going
Yes,
into the chamber,
yes.
this area.
Okay.
Right,
Now-
and this part remains as it is right now.
All right, during construction, how are you going to prevent erosion back there?
Well, you're proposing the conventional erosion
I re-
control.
I read your erosion control, but it didn't address to my satisfaction, how are you going to prevent what I could possibly significant erosion during construction behind the house? And I don't know where that runoff is going to go. You said it was going to go to those two chambers. I'm not so sure it will.
Well, it's going to go from the roof, from this backyard, from here is going to this, from the roof, all the roofs are going here, and the rest of it follows the pre-construction flow pattern. During the construction, we have seal fence all around.
Do you have you made any calculations as to how much runoff from that site will go into those two chambers?
Yes, we have.
Are they in your package?
They're not in the package, no.
Could we see them?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes,
I
Chris.
think maybe what Dave is concerned about is, I think what Dave is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, is during construction, the back of the area will be graded, and so there'll be construction equipment, and they'll be regrading the slope, so there'll be disturbed soil. What happens if there's a rain event and the slope starts failing, or gets inundated with rainwater? I
Thank
think
you.
maybe if you put some jute matting or some stabilized,
Yeah.
the silt fence is just going to help the downstream
Sure,
side. I
sure.
think if the actual slope, you can put some
Yes, of course.
some jute matting on the actual slope itself, so it doesn't erode away and go down the hill.
Sure, this construction is going to happen quick instead of excavating.
Rain comes pretty quick too, though.
And all these areas are right now grassy and they remain untouched.
Sure.
The area which is being disturbed, of course, any jute matting or any other erosion control device that needs to be implemented, it will be. Sure.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend some
Good.
sort of slope
Yeah,
control.
makes sense,
You can put that as a condition, definitely.
makes sense. All right,
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Dave, back to you.
What kind of a storm event will both those chambers handle?
The town requires an storm intensity for 100-year storm, okay, with 8.78 inch of rain per 24 hours. During a 100-year storm, everything gets flooded, no doubt. But at the peak, these systems, the way the calculation shows, they will handle, they are supposed to handle the peak for almost 4 hours.
Okay.
So it is designed for 100-year storm, to answer your question. They're huge, 10.5 by 5.5 by 4. but-
Being huge doesn't mean they necessarily work. There's going to be some runoff that goes to the northwest, and that's the wetlands that we've had some concern about over the years. That's the wetlands behind Russell. It's not Freeman Lake.
You
But
mean
you-
this one here, yeah.
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 And Carpath, as I understand it, is not an accepted street and does not have storm drains in the street. Is that correct?
I don't believe so. I don't think.
Russell is not an accepted street, and it does not have storm drains in the street either.
Correct.
So the only runoff from this site that's being collected is in those two chambers. Everything else is either going to flow over Carpath or flow onto Russell. Is that
What's
correct?
happening right now.
That doesn't,
We are
that,
improving the
that
situation.
doesn't mean it's okay, just because it's happening now.
Well,
I'm trying to understand how significantly better is this project going to make that neighborhood? That's what I want to understand. I'm not hearing it yet, that's all. That's all I had, Chris,
All right,
right
Dave,
now.
moving on. Bill?
Yeah, I agree with Chris about the test pit for that driveway drain. Also, I had a question. This Russell Road is on the property, right? It cuts through this property.
yes, yes, yes.
Now, is there any intention to remove any of the hot top that's within the 30-foot no impervious? There's a little area of an apron down by the
No.
water?
No.
You have no intention to remove any of that? Down at the bottom, the little apron?
You mean here?
No?
No,
Right there.
none of the.
See where the apron goes down towards the water?
Yeah, no. We are not touching any existing pavement.
So the hot top's going to remain within the 30 feet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can unless we go through all kinds of process with DPW. We can. But right now, as of this moment, to the best of my knowledge, there is no intention to touch any of the existing pavement.
Does the town plow that, or who plows that?
Town plows that.
They
Plows
don't.
right away, but not that little parking area. But, Bill, we'd be happy to remove that bump out. And
I was just asking the question.
you know, the commission would like us to take that out and put some landscaping there and create
Right.
some less impervious soil as part of this project. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay. And I also agree, because you're going to be doing work behind the house. We were just talking about the area behind the house. It's a pretty good slope right there. When you build that wall, the retaining wall, you're going to disturb that whole area. So that is a concern as far as if it rains, you're going to get a lot of washout from that area. So the jute mat or
Sure.
some other, maybe some additional silt fence
Sure.
between where the house is going to be and that slope too might help, keep the water from rushing
We
down
could
that
do
hill.
that, and Dave can inspect us every day.
That's all I have right now, Chris.
All right, very good. Thanks, Bill. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think I got a correct answer. Actually, I don't think Chris got a correct answer. On the south side of the property, you're saying the water comes off the hill now and sheets down to the pond. You're going to make cuts behind the proposed garage and behind the proposed addition. I'm not an engineer, but when you block off that flow, the water's going to go in the next door neighbor's property.
No, these contours, they go uphill this way. So, right now, the contours are just
Yeah,
like
but
this.
147 to 145, 43, 41, if you're blocking it up by the house, where's that water going to go?
It's coming towards the foundation.
Yeah.
And it goes around. It comes to this swale.
You're right on the edge of the property there, though.
No, edge of the property is here.
No, where the existing structure is.
I think what we're talking about is this
Okay, right,
This will continue down
yes.
and go that.
It has to go that way because of structure being there. That's kind of going in your neighbor's property.
It's coming this way.
Right, you only have like a concrete walkway,
Yeah.
and where is that water gonna funnel off to?
We can put another underground system here, if commission so desires, that's fine. The idea was that to continue the swale, come through these few feet, and come join the existing contours that go this way. There is some sort of swale here, as you can see from the contours. We can either continue that, or we can put another system here, that's fine.
That's fine, do what you have to remedy it, we're not here to design.
No, we
No.
will. I mean, but that was the intent, to bring the soil along and down to where it goes right now.
But it hasn't been addressed until we just now addressed it.
Well, these contours come this way and down, and this is an existing soil. So once it passes through this corner, it gets back into this soil.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Carl?
The only thing I'm trying to remember is when we talked last time, we talk about trees. Were the trees removed already on this site?
I think
There was one dead tree within the 100-foot buffer that was removed, I think, 2018.
Okay, and are any more planned to be removed?
And within the 100-foot buffer?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Thanks, Carl. All right, John?
These retaining walls, what are they gonna be built with? Are they gonna be built like the front retaining wall, which is boulders? Or a regular system?
they will be designed as a cast-in-place concrete or landscape block retaining walls. Landscape block, which is designed for retaining wall. They go up to like 50.
Oh, I know how high they go up.
So either or, but it will not be a stone wall, no.
So mud and stuff like that isn't gonna be able to get through.
No.
And you're sure these retaining walls are gonna be enough to hold back everything?
They will be, yes, they will be designed accordingly, just like any other retaining wall.
Yeah, okay. I don't have anything right yet.
All right, thanks, John. Mr. Conservation Agent Coons, comments for the commission?
Sure. I do think that the concern about the depth to groundwater for leaching chamber number 2, I think that is legitimate. So I do think definitely test pits should be done in that area. But I'm not sure we need to keep the hearing open to do that. I think that can be put in as a special condition in the order that they be done prior to the start of construction, and that it just needs to be verified that there's a sufficient, height over the groundwater such that they'll function properly. So, does that sound reasonable?
All right, thank you. Anything else?
I think I also agree with the concern about the increased or the possibility of increased erosion in the area in back of the proposed house. I think, yeah, but I think that should be handled with a condition, special condition that says that, yeah, there should be some jute matting. In addition, I do think there should be another line of erosion control, silt fence and straw wattles back there. And with regard to the retaining walls, I think that there should be a special condition in the order that requires, a specific design, prior to the start of construction of the retaining walls, because I've certainly dealt with enough contractors building retaining walls that they all, they use the same basic materials, but they tend to do things differently. So I think that a contractor needs to be selected, and then he submit a specific design for review, and I'll review it. If I think the commission needs to review it, well, then the commission will review it. But I think if you hire a good contractor, I think he's going to be very well aware of the concerns here for construction of the walls on site. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coons. Commissioners, any more questions before we get some more public, open it up for public input and questions? All right, well, this is a public hearing. And so if someone from the public would like to address the commission and ask the applicant questions or make comments, just raise your hand and come up to the podium and identify yourself, your name and address for the record. It'd be great. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see one person. Yes, please come forward.
Gloria Clancy, 12 Russell Road.
I think you can take your mask off, because I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Gloria Clancy, 12 Russell Road. I was present at the other meeting that they had for this, and you suggested a site visit. Did you all go on a site visit? Have you been out there?
I haven't been out there. Has anyone else been out?
Our agent's been out there, right?
I've been out there, yes.
I've been out there. yeah.
I've been out
Not-
there.
Not as a visit.
I don't think we've been out there as a group.
Group,
Most
no.
of us have been.
Individually, we've been out
I
there.
went out there.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you noticed that Russell Road itself is pretty banged up, and with more construction vehicles, et cetera, coming through, it's only going to get a lot worse, and that DPW won't do anything for us in regards to the road. So I'm concerned about that also. My driveway floods as it is, and it's,
Which number?
I'm at 12 Russell Road. I'm closer to the beginning of Russell Road, but every car that comes by and every delivery truck, et cetera, has to come by my house, and I have potholes that are really, really bad, and all the neighbors that come through, they all have to drive through those potholes. So, and I don't, we have water pipe on one side of the road underneath, and sewer pipe on the other side. So there's not a whole lot of room for degradation. I mean, it's eventually going to fall right through into the water and sewer lines. And DPW doesn't want to get involved. So I'm concerned about
That's because it's not an accepted street.
it's not an accepted road. But now we're going to have lots of more construction vehicles and vehicle traffic to and from the new building. And it's just going to get worse. So I just wanted to make sure that you've all been out there and see our situation. You need to see the bigger picture. It's not just that one lot. It's our quality of life. That's all. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ms. Clancy. Thank you. Anyone else wish to ask questions of the applicant or address the commission? All right, well, today was our opening meeting for the commission. Does a member of the commission want to take some sort of action tonight for next steps?
I think we asked the applicant to provide us with some additional information. My primary concern with this proposal is I do not feel the applicant has adequately shown me how the runoff from that hill is going to be managed and contained during construction and post-construction. What I don't want, and it gets to what this lady just spoke to, is that street's in pretty bad shape, and this project should try to keep water off of Russell Road to the extent that it can. Certainly should not put more water onto it. I'm also not quite sure, because it wasn't addressed, does the runoff go to the wetlands on the other side of Car Path? I think the question about the elevation of the chamber by the driveway is an important one. We don't want that chamber to be below the water level of Freeman Lake. So it'd be my recommendation that we give the applicant an opportunity to answer our questions.
Yeah,
Mr. Iliopoulos.
We'd welcome the opportunity to try to add some detail to the plan, especially with the construction runoff, look at the test pit. I think we could come up with a good condition on that and try to see if we can satisfy some of the concerns raised tonight. So I think that makes sense to maybe continue the hearing. Let us submit some more detail on the plan, and we can hopefully address your concerns.
Very good. So if I could have a motion then from the commission to continue. Mr. Iliopoulos, we're meeting January 4th and January 18th. I don't know if you have a preference on
Yes, sir.
dates for getting those information?
Why don't we, if you wouldn't mind, could we go with the 4th? We'll see how much time we need to update the plans to get them to you with the holidays. If we need more time, we could always reach out and ask for a continuance to
Exactly.
the 18th, if that would be all right.
Okay.
I know it's a tough time of year, so we'll see how quickly we can pull it all together. So maybe the 18th will be more realistic, but we'll try for the 4th for now.
All right, so could we have a motion to continue then, the hearing?
I so move we continue this hearing until January 4th.
Motion by Mr. McLaughlin, seconded, excuse me.
So it's moved and seconded, right?
Well, yes, we just had Mark add the second on that,
Okay,
yes.
so just discussion on the motion, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
What I can do, if the commission wants, is that I can draft a proposed set of pre-construction conditions to address some of the concerns or address
I
the
think that's a
concerns
great
that we have.
idea. I think
So-
that's a great idea. It
So
could be beneficial.
I can have those ready for the commission's review at the next meeting.
Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, is there any desire by the board to remove any of that hot top that's in that apron out front, or leave it the way it is?
I thought that might be a good idea, is my off-the-cuff feeling.
Except doesn't Russell Road go to another house?
Yeah, but it sticks down.
This is like, we have
There's a couple
we
of,
own the part of Russell
Right here.
Road, but there's also an adjacent
Right here.
parking area that's between Russell Road and the pond.
That's a
that is
parking
used for
spot.
parking.
That's like a
That's
parking
owned by
spot.
the applicant.
That
cut
might
out of
help
Russell
some of
Road.
the runoff situation, you know?
Well, if it gets rid of some pervious material, yeah.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
mean impervious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that word right.
It might help, you know.
We're happy to incorporate that into the
I mean,
plan.
it's just my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else supports that, but I think it might help.
Chairman, we don't this is a single-family application, so we would not normally, I think, have our town engineer review any calculations. I think by fact of the matter that this proposal is gonna have two chambers that are supposed to collect a lot of water and to ameliorate the situation, I'd like to feel comfortable that the capacity of those chambers is adequate. And I wouldn't, if Christina wouldn't mind, I wouldn't, and if the applicant wouldn't mind, I'd like maybe our town engineer just to review those drainage calculations into those chambers.
Yeah, I think we could have our agent put that request over to the town engineer.
I
Just make a comment on
Yeah.
that apron Billy brought up. It's not in his property.
Yeah.
I don't
What's
know.
that?
It's not in his
We
property.
do own that. We own all the way to the lake. Our property goes all the way to the lake.
Oh,
So
I
we
thought
own-
that dark line represents his property.
Yeah, no, Russell Way goes through our property, and we own on the other side between Russell Way and the pond as well.
Is this what you were talking about? Bill?
That's not what the plan shows.
No. This
The plan shows
That
that
one.
applicant's property stops before the lake.
No, they're looking at two different aprons.
No, it's this one.
They were looking at two different
No, it's
aprons.
a 30-foot
Yeah.
impound.
yeah, the other there's another apron which
Across the
is,
road.
yeah.
That's on somebody else's.
Right, that's what I mean. Exactly.
Right, but yeah, certainly, I mean, yeah, you can't take action on somebody else's property.
No, no, it's on theirs.
I had the
On
wrong,
theirs.
I had the wrong apron.
Okay, all right, good,
Yeah, we do own
good.
the whole.
Okay, good. Well,
With your kitchen apron on.
all right, well, I'm glad we clarified that. All right, but any more questions, comments before we take the vote to continue? All right, so we have a vote to continue this hearing until January 4th. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None unanimous. We'll see everyone on January 4th. And happy holidays and happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you too, and be safe and healthy.
Nobody said anything.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next hearing we have for this evening is a notice of intent filed by the New England Power Company, K137/L138 and 337, transmission line rights of way. And we believe have the BSC group representing the applicant, and we should have a notice, a legal notice for the record here.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in Room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, at 7:10 PM, to consider the notice of intent filed by New England Power Company for proposed work within bordering vegetated wetlands, bordering lands subject to flooding, and riverfront area in the right-of-way for the K137, L138, and 337 transmission lines. The project entails exploratory soil borings and access for planning and design purposes associated with future utility work on the transmission lines. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Allison Milliman. I'm here from BSC Group. I'm here on behalf of New England Power to present the K137, L138, 337 line soil borings project to the commission. We have work as was read out in multiple resource areas under the commission's, is that okay?
That's better.
Under the commission's jurisdiction.
Yes, much better.
Thank you. The entire project is within the maintained utility right-of-way associated with the overhead transmission lines that runs through the town of Chelmsford. The purpose of the soil borings is basically to look at subsurface characteristics at the existing structure locations and for future maintenance work where they will be replacing those features at some point. And they want to know from an engineering standpoint, what kind of base those structures need, how deep into the ground. They just need to know the depth to competent material so they can properly engineer those replacement structures in the future. We do have some locations within bordering vegetated wetland. That's because the existing transmission line runs through bordering vegetated wetlands at this time. So for access in those locations, they'll be using temporary construction mats. Those are best managed in practice. They're basically heavy timber mats placed on top of the substrate, the soil, on top of the vegetation so the equipment can get in, complete those soil boring activities. Then everything will be removed from the wetlands. All activities associated with this project are temporary in nature. There are no permanent impacts proposed in any resource areas under the commission's jurisdiction.
Okay, thanks for the overview. Very good. Let's see if the commissioners have questions. Starting to the left here, Chris.
Sure. Any of the spoils that come out of the borings or any of the work that you guys are doing out there, are you proposing any erosion controls or to basically protect the wetlands?
Yes, on a case-by-case basis, sometimes the contractors will bring with them a straw wattle. Because we're talking about a 4 to 6 inch hole, it's very minor in nature. They will be side casting, while they're actively boring. The unsuitable material that's not, they're not going to be testing. It's basically the overburden. They're going to use that to backfill that hole. Then they'll stabilize it with straw. Each bore itself is probably a day, at the most 2 days usually to complete. So it's very quick, very temporary in nature. So typically a straw wattle suffices when we're working right next to a wetland or in a wetland.
That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Chris, Dave.
There's a road through all this right away correctly, so you'll be driving equipment on existing roads, or you're gonna have to create a new road?
There's no road building proposed. That's correct. So they're either gonna be using the existing access roads, which are in pretty good shape. I've walked this whole right away before.
It's the whole town of Chelmsford, right? Pretty much.
Yes, yeah, it runs kind of like southwest to northeast, and it covers a pretty large stretch of your town.
When would you expect the work to be done? What time of year?
They're going to start the soil boring activities in the spring of this year. We anticipate at least a year of activities. This is multiple towns, a very large transmission line project.
Can you share with me what long-term plans this suggests? Just more transmission lines? Or you may not know.
Right.
And it's got nothing to do with conservation. I'm just interested.
You mean it's on this right-of-way or in
Yeah,
general?
on the right-of-way that you want to do the test borings. Is the power company planning to add capacity by putting up more towers or more wires or whatever it is they do?
The plan is to look at the existing conditions at the existing structures with the intent of replacing those lines.
I got you. Yeah. And one last question. If you'd all look at sheet number 7 of the maps. And could you all tell me
Right in the middle.
where Hickory Hills Conservation Area is?
Never heard of it.
This is not, ma'am, this is not a question for you.
Okay.
This is a question for the Conservation Commission.
We've never heard of it.
That's a new one, Dave.
That is a new.
I like the idea, but,
Well, what it is, Guy, just for your history, when Old Stage was built, the former town manager, Mr. Lynch, negotiated some land swaps and some donations of land in return for allowing the Old Stage to be built. And there's about 37 acres that are adjoined, and it goes all the way from Wright Reservation to Concord Road at Triangle Gas Station. The problem is, some areas are no more than 6 or 7 feet wide, so, but the kids have made trails out there. But there is an All Maps website somewhere,
All trails.
All Trails website, and they call it this, they give it this name.
Somebody dubbed it.
We should probably count it.
Well, we count it as our land, but we
Yeah.
don't look at it the way we look at right reservation or,
Well,
that's all the questions I have.
All right, thanks. Billy?
No, I'm good.
Good. Mark?
I'm good.
Good. Carl?
I did read 105 pages of a document today. I didn't read every page. I looked at it.
Don't you,
Truly good.
we weren't gonna test you.
No, it was interesting to see. The only one question I had is, I know it talks about putting replacement, like flowers, wild plant growth. I assume everything that would be replaced is native.
Yes. Yep. So the New England Power Company has approved seed mixes that all contractors have to use based on the site conditions. So there's an approved wet mix, wetland mix. Their upland mix includes all native species. And they actually participate, interestingly enough, in monarch butterfly, like that program.
Okay,
So.
good. All right, thank you. No, that's it.
Good, John?
I'm good with this.
Good? Good. All right. Mr. Coons, anything to add?
Just a couple things. Question is, why isn't this an exempt activity under 310 CMR 10.02 to A2? Activities conducted to maintain, repair, replace, but not substantially change or enlarge an existing and lawfully located structure or facility used on the surface of the public and used to provide electric service?
That's an excellent question, and something that, I applaud that would be something this commission would be amenable to.
Well, I don't know if I said that.
Maybe not that far, but.
Unfortunately, in the actual regulations, there's a very specific provision for exploratory soil borings, and it's under like the survey activities provisions where it's exempt as a minor buffer zone activity as long as no wetland resources are crossed. And in this, on this project, we are required to cross wetland resources. Although the intent is for future maintenance, the activity that I'm presenting in front of you today, unfortunately, New England Power's stance at this time is that it's under the monitoring and testing minor buffer zone. So when we have wetlands crossed, we come before the commissions.
Okay. Just beyond that, I would recommend a condition in there, and we talked about this on other projects, prior to the start of any site work, submit a detailed written chronological work sequence, and, I also recommend a condition that there'll be regular status reports as the work proceeds. I mean, this compared to the last one the commission just saw, I mean, this is a pretty big project. Do you have an estimate of how long, it will take to complete the work?
So we're looking at a right-of-way that crosses 6 towns, and I think right now.
But just in Chelmsford? Do you have any estimate?
This is a pretty large chunk of the project, so I would say maybe 5 months, 6 months, we should anticipate some activities. So once we get a contractor on board, I think I'll have a much better idea of their sequencing and their plan, and I would be happy to provide updates on, schedule and that nature to the commission.
So would you be able to, take even a rough estimate at this point of what it would be reasonable in terms of status reports? I mean, probably daily is not reasonable, but maybe weekly or, bi-weekly?
Yep. So as a consultant for New England Power and for their environmental program, we will be out there on a weekly basis doing site inspections, and we'll be preparing compliance reports. I would be happy to provide those to the commission as well on a weekly basis, so you get an update on where the project, where activities are happening, and how things are going with the compliance.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Good, excellent. Well, this is a public hearing, so does anyone from the public have any questions or comments they would like to make on this application? Seeing none, all right. Do we have a motion then to close the public hearing?
So move.
So moved by Dave, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor of closing the hearing? Unanimous? Very good. And then we have, this is a notice of intent, so we're looking for a standard order of conditions, and I hear a special condition of weekly status reports to the commission through our agent. I don't think I heard anything else as far as special conditions. So someone can make a motion then?
I so move.
So moved by Dave McLaughlin and seconded by Chris Demore. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. So it's unanimous. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a
Hope
great
to
evening.
see you again. Thanks. Okay, the next item we have on tonight's agenda is notice of intent filed with respect to 133 Princeton Road. And I see our engineer, Katie Enright, present, representing the applicant this evening. And we'll have the legal notice read in first into the record.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, December 21st, at 7:15 p.m. to consider the notice of intent filed by Clahan LLC on behalf of property owner 133 Princeton Street LLC for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 133 Princeton Street, further identified as map 19, block 59, lot 9 on the Chelmsford Assessor's maps. The project entails redevelopment of existing site, including demolition of the existing abandoned commercial building, followed by construction of a liquor store. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Katie, good to see you back before the commission again.
Thank you very
Are you
much.
sure it's her?
I believe it's her behind that, there you go, behind the mask. I actually wasn't quite sure earlier, Dave, but, you know, I made an educated guess. And
Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. I'm here tonight on behalf of Clahan LLC, V, who's not with us tonight, but he sends his regards. And we're all trying to stay a little bit extra safe before the holidays. You all know this as 133 Princeton Street, or the horrible abandoned-looking building that I guess was the can store or the cannery at one point between the Princeton station and a used car lot on Princeton Street. So finally, we have somebody who's looking at redeveloping the property. It's being redeveloped as a liquor store. The building is 2 stories when you look at it from Princeton Street, and 2.5 when you look at it from the back parking lot. The reason we're here before you tonight, which is probably the most important thing to tell all of you, is that we're in the floodplain. So we're in the floodplain of Stony Brook, which is, if you look at the site, runs way over here by the mill. I don't want to call it vapor, just establishment now. By there, and then I believe this is called Cold Springs Brook, that runs significantly behind us and behind the Mahoney's, which is just well off behind the site here. So the 100-year floodplain elevation, is it okay if I stand in front of this?
yeah, it'll pick it up pretty good.
Okay, okay. I like to point. So the 100-year floodplain runs through the existing building now. So the waters would come up.
Is it the whole building or just partial?
No, just a portion of the building. So the 103 contour runs through about here in the existing condition. So the water would come up with the doors on the back of the existing building. The building comes out to like here now, the existing building. The water would come up, surround the building, and climb the sides of the building a little bit on the exterior. So when we looked at this in the post-development condition, really needs to do just about the same thing. So the building itself is placed a little bit further forward than the existing building on the site. We have a zone line that runs through the property that has a commercial front and residential rear. So we need to keep the building in the commercial portion. Even though there's an existing building there, that helps us for the Conservation Commission, but not under zoning.
I'm sorry?
Because it's been abandoned for so long, we actually don't get any of the zoning relief because the building is still existing. So we needed to pull that building forward. For the retail situation, for the day-to-day, I believe there's 17 spaces in the front of the building. So people would come into the parking lot, go into the retail area. Holidays, when it's super packed and super busy, they'd come out back here and park back here, walk up the side of the building to the front door, and get into the building that way. So the majority of the floodplain, we've altered it slightly, basically where the contours are, so that we can create some drainage, stormwater management. We're about a little more than 8,000 square feet of impervious more than exists there today. Currently, the parking lot ends about here. And then if you're out there, that fence is the back property line. It's on the existing conditions plan. So there's a fence that runs along the sides of the property here. This area back here looks like it had been disturbed previously. We did some soil testing in the back here. We did some soil testing in the front that was witnessed by the town engineer, Christina Papadopoulos. Out front, we have about 6 feet of material till we hit seasonal high. Out back, we have about 2 feet till we hit seasonal high. So what we've done for drainage is out front, we were able to put in an underground infiltration area. Everything either flows to Princeton Street, a little bit of flow, matches the pre-existing flow. Everything else runs to the back and off the back of the property into that field that's behind the property. So what we've looked at doing is underground infiltration in the front. The stormwater will go to deep unputted catch basins, then to an isolator row, and then to a product called an SC310, which is just a shallow infiltration plastic arch. Then the rest of the water, well, that includes the roof. The rest of the water will flow off, and what we've designed is 2 rain guardians, one at each of these corners. What's good about those is there's less rim to invert, essentially, than a deep unputted catch basin. And we got a 79% TSS removal with those, which is better than a catch basin. So that allows us to take surface runoff and put it directly into the next BMP, rather than having that big 3.5-foot rim to invert. So we were able to keep the grades really shallow back here, which allows us to increase the overall volume of floodplain storage that we have in the back of the site. So the grades come down, we enter on this side an infiltration basin, and then here we enter into a swale, and everything overflows to the back as it does today. So we had one review from the town engineer during planning board. We already have our planning board approval. We wanted to work with Christina and make sure that her drainage questions were answered before we filed with you. So we were able to take her letter, prepare a package that was submitted to this board and to her. What we found out last week, and this might be a good thing for the commission to know, is that any kind of porous pavement requires a special permit from the planning board. So we had switched over to use kind of an LID measure, some porous pavement in the back here to accomplish some of our drainage solutions. We found out that we would have to completely go back to planning board and refile and re-notify so that we could use porous pavement. So we said forget it and switched it out and made it work without it.
They wouldn't give you an amendment?
No, we would have to, because it's a new special permit, we would have to re-advertise.
That's ridiculous.
I know. So the whole bylaw, that portion of the bylaw was just amended, but they didn't take out the special permit part. And I actually had never seen it in 25 years, and Christina and Evan weren't really sure. Christina found it, and Evan was like, well, I guess it's written down, so I guess you'd have to come back. So we made it work without that. We sent in a new plan to Christina yesterday. I didn't see anything from her today. She had a bunch of meetings today. Were you able to talk to her,
No,
David, at all?
no.
Okay. I talked to her this morning. She was going to try to get to it. None of it really had to do with the floodplain mitigation. That was all approved from her in her previous letter. We're just working out the final details to make sure with the new stormwater management for Chelmsford, we have to have 90% TSS removal and 60% total phosphorus removal. And we had that. We were just making some little tweaks here and there to make sure she's satisfied. So with that, that's a pretty quick overview. If you have any questions. I know, David, you asked me about the 10-year flood. Before I close, I did find the profiles for Stony Brook. I think it appears, I have the floodplain map with me, I think it appears around 99, 99.5, which would just touch this back corner, which is super surprising based on what we saw when we were out there, that it would ever come up that high. But that's what the profile that I could find for the flood insurance study that was done for Middlesex County that included that. I couldn't find the section of Cold Springs Brook at all, so I don't know if this section was even studied. But I just wanted to.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for checking on that.
David and I did go out on Monday and walk the site also.
Well, thanks, Katie. Thanks. David, kind of leads into your comments. I know you were out there. Can you
Yes,
give us a little bit of report?
So, and a couple of minor questions did occur to me after our site visit, Katie. So, this doesn't require a SWIP, right? I mean,
We would do one, yeah,
Oh,
because
you
it's
would
new
do a SWIP?
construction that's over 40,000 square feet, so
Oh.
we would do a SWIP for this.
Okay, so I mean, this is that large?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That includes
I get
the parking lot, right?
Correct.
Because the building's not that big.
The building is, well.
Including the
building-
cellar.
The building, including the cellar, actually, with the 3 stories of gross square footage, are about
35,000?
35,000.
Yeah.
The lot itself is about 53,000, so we will trigger that.
Okay,
So we will be filing a SWIP. Christina asked for it in her letter,
Okay.
and we will file it prior to starting construction once we know who the contractor is on board and we can fill it out with them.
So there will be a condition in the order that says that that needs to be submitted to conservation prior to the start of construction, and also that the reports required by the SWIP shall be provided to conservation as well. So, okay, and what about erosion control? Are you proposing any erosion control?
So erosion
Okay.
control, we proposed as, basically as silt socks. And when I was just looking at the site, we usually have this really dark line around the entire area. It really is gonna need to be at the limit of work. Everything is pretty much downhill from us, so we will have to, and I can add that to the plan.
Yes, if you would please do that.
We did show it on the detail sheet, but we didn't show a location where, but it would be essentially the entire property line at the limit.
Good. So you are awaiting further revised plans from, or you're going to be preparing for the revised plans?
No, they're done and they're into Christina.
Oh, okay.
Based on her last comment letter, and we had responded to the comments and provided you with a copy of that yesterday when we were dropping them off to her at the same time.
But you haven't submitted the final plans yet, correct? Or are
Oh, I
these-
think those were the final. I think those are the final plans.
Oh, okay, so the date on these is 12/20?
Right.
So these are the final plans?
Mhm.
Okay,
Well, we hope so. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I think you saw.
Well, this is the third iteration with her. She probably wouldn't have any more questions, would
I
she?
hope so. I was really hoping she would get to it today, but it's hard. This week is really hard, so she hadn't. I'd be happy
All
if
those
the commission
Christmas
were okay to
parties.
have it as a condition of approval to make sure she's okay with it. She has to be okay with it before we print Mylars for the planning board. And there's certainly no more disturbance that we can do.
So I personally don't see I don't see any reason at this point to keep the hearing open.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
All right, good. Well, let's see if the commission's has some questions. Chris, anything?
No, I mean, I think that Christina's looking at the pre and post and the drainage. I'm more than comfortable with that. You'd said that you provided a floodplain calcs too, and she signed off on those. So
Good.
I'm good.
All right, excellent. Dave, anything?
Where is the floodplain line?
So it runs through the 103 contour, which now basically does this.
So it's a straight line through the back of the building? Or is it
Well, no,
cut?
it follows the building because the building's enclosed, so it can't get into the building.
No, I understand,
It
but
just
if,
says
I'm probably didn't, if the building weren't there, where would the floodplain line be?
It would go straight across.
That's
yeah.
what that's what I want, okay.
Yes,
But you're reworking the 103
that's correct.
contour as part of the project.
So, right, what we've done is given you the foot-by-foot volumes from pre to post, from I believe it's the 98 contour to the 103, so that you can see essentially the volumes between each foot-to-foot interval to prove to you that we're keeping the same, or actually it's more volume we have in the post than the pre.
So the 103 and essentially the floodplain elevation is moving closer to the road, right?
Only on our site in this section here. Right, because we had to fill this side a little bit. And the building's a little bit wider than the existing building, I believe, that's there today for the footprint wise. So, right, we manipulated, which we have to do now because you can't use structural measures to provide flood volume storage. So you basically have to manipulate the ground to get your flood storage. So that's what we did within our site.
And that confused me at first. It's a little bit unusual, so.
Good. Dave, anything more?
In the erosion control plan, you make a reference to the disturbed material that's going to be removed. How will disturbed material be deemed unsuitable? You use the term to describe material as unsuitable. I don't know what
Well, it
unsuitable material is.
Right, so it depends what you're using it for. So there's some unsuitable material in the front here above the natural grade that was filled in the front here. That material will most likely be unsuitable for the parking lot, so that'll have to be.
So it's end use, not in absolute terms,
That's
it's
correct.
unsuitable, okay.
Like under the building too.
What's the demolition plan? In terms of
Demolition.
timing? What
We
happens
actually-
first, second, third?
I mean, first is gonna be, we're gonna have to go in and cut and cap all the utilities, get all those shut off, and then the building's gonna come down, and then the pavement's gonna come out, so.
With all the
Drainage
varied
system.
uses over the years, do you expect anything to be in the foundation that's
Oh gosh, we
bad?
hope not. I don't know. We don't know. In the test pits we've done so far, we haven't found anything, sort of unusual. In the test pits we've done, like I said, out front here, we got down to natural grade within about 6 feet. There was fill material, but it wasn't told to me that it was like dirty fill material. And in the back, it wasn't, I believe it wasn't fill. We had water table at 26 inches, so we haven't seen anything of concern as of yet.
You had pavers in the back that would take water flow and somebody said not to use them? Was it
No,
DPW or,
we were gonna have to go back to planning board for a special permit.
and you're not now?
No,
So you are gonna have pavers back there?
no, we'd
No?
have to, if we did the pavers, we'd have to go back to them. So we switched, originally we had.
So you're gonna make it more impervious?
Well, it was this way to start.
Yeah.
And we made it more pervious
Yeah,
to look at a drainage solution. And then we went back to talk to Christina and Evan, and they determined we would have to refile the site plan and special permit and re-advertise to do pervious pavers. And we decided that that wasn't in the plan, to spend another month and a half in planning board.
and so what's the final alternative?
Just to put it back to the conventional way we had it and make it work without the pavers.
Save this town from bureaucracy.
At least I know now, so if I want to do them in the future, I can know to put them in from the start. But
You've got a substantial amount of landscaping on this site, and there's a list of trees you're gonna grow that are 2.5 to 3 feet when you plant them. How big do those trees grow? You know? Do they end up being 20-footers or 30-footers?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
What's
You
the,
might
what's
know.
the, what's the species?
I mean,
There's an Acer maple, they could be, they can be small or big, right?
There are so many hybrids
Actually-
Right,
of
I
maples
know.
now.
I can tell you that Nancy Arroway reviewed it and went back and forth with our landscape architect as to the appropriateness and the size of each of the plants on the drawing. If that's helpful.
No, where I'm
But-
coming from, Katie,
Yeah.
is you're removing 8 trees, which are probably lousy trees,
Yeah.
from the site. I like to see good trees to replace it, to have the same, if not a better impact on the atmosphere. And I don't,
Sure.
and that's a function of how big a tree grows as much
Mm-hmm.
as any. If you don't know, I don't think.
don't know off the top of my head. I
then
can tell you the
don't- all right.
species.
That's okay.
I wouldn't propose any hemlocks.
No, or Norway, what, Norway,
Maples.
maples.
No, no, wait,
Yeah, those aren't allowed anymore.
native.
In, and I can't put my finger right on it, but in one of either Christine's first or second letter to you, she refers to ponds on the site. What is she referring to? Ponds?
Here and here.
They literally ponds of water that exist year-round?
No.
Oh,
This
it's,
is an infiltration pond, and this is
oh,
essentially.
okay, she's not referring to the site, natural site condition.
No.
Okay.
No, so this is an infiltration pond, and this we had in HydroCAD as a swale, and she wanted it modeled as a pond, so we need this.
Okay,
pond
no, I thought
too.
I thought she was referring to a natural pond, and
No.
I was concerned about that.
Well, they're wet basins, right?
This is actually an infiltration pond. It's outside of the water table, and this doesn't, well, it can infiltrate, but it's not called an infiltration practice because it's too close to the property line, so.
And so all the drainage from the site is going to where?
The building in the front goes to here, underneath, and then the pavement from basically here along the side of the building, and this pavement goes into these two practices.
Where's the water table in the cellar? How do you hit water fast, do you know?
Well, we have water table back, we tested back here, and it was about 26 inches, I believe.
Okay, but you having a full cellar in the building?
Full cellar in the building, but it basically is at that elevation, about a foot to 2 feet below grade.
One last question, I'm sorry. DPW said they didn't want sidewalks.
Right, the final square committee did. And
Why did DPW not
And
want a
MassDOT's
sidewalk?
gonna require us to put
It's
sidewalks.
it's not a conservation question. I know.
DPW, well, so the thought process was that they'd take the money and put sidewalks somewhere where they're more needed. But I think Vinyl Square Committee came back and said, no, we want sidewalks.
Good.
And MassDOT's not gonna let us get away without putting in sidewalks.
Good.
So the sidewalk's back.
That's all I had, Chris.
Yep.
Good, good, I'm glad the sidewalk's back. Bill?
Do you have dewatering when you do that?
I
cellar?
don't have a dewatering plan, but we would include that in the SWIP.
That's gonna be a big improvement for what's there.
Oh, yeah.
Anything.
Anything is. No, that was the only question I had, was that, about dewatering when you did the cellar. So you're saying, Katie, it's more of a crawl space, this cellar?
No, it is a cellar. It is a full cellar, but
Okay.
basically it's gonna be half buried in the back, so
Okay.
that basically the floodwaters can't get into the building.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay. But you're still gonna have to dewater, so you need a plan.
There'll probably need to be some sort of dewatering,
Right.
absolutely, for the footings.
Okay. Oh,
But
that's
yes,
it.
we'll include that in the SWIP.
Okay.
Very good. Good, Mark?
I'm still confused about this whole area this site is probably 95% impervious. Fair number, 93, 95. But you're taking floodplain area and we're paving it. We're not replicating anything.
We're replicating the volume, which is what's required. So what we're doing is we're providing additional, actually more volume that exists there today within the floodplain. So when the lot floods, it has more storage on the lot than the existing condition.
And that's all done on the railroad property.
The flood, well, the flood
The
comes.
replication.
No, it's here. So
It's paved, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's volume. So that's the thing, is it has to do with elevations. It does not have to do with pervious, impervious.
You had to cut and fill different areas?
That's correct. So that's what we're doing, and what we're doing is we're taking the infiltration that happens in the back now, and we're putting all the water into the ground up here, where it's further away from the water table. So there's also increased infiltration on the site over the existing condition too.
It is standard practice to.
Okay.
But it is a little confusing if you're
Sure
not
is.
used to seeing it, yeah.
I guess the other thing is, we really encourage trees. Really put a lot of emphasis on that. Anything they can add to this, I'd like to see. And native. if we could.
I can double check on the native, but, I mean, as you can see, we've put plants every possible place we
Yeah,
can.
I mean, there's a ton of shrubs on
It's
it.
significantly
Maybe you
more
could
than-
put some trees instead of shrubs.
I think
Just the
anywhere,
volume.
right, anywhere where they could fit.
Yeah.
These are
That
all-
whole side is
these are all
just chock
trees,
full of
These are
it.
all trees, these are all
Yeah.
trees, these are all trees, there's trees here in the center
Yeah,
island.
no, that would be
Really
nice.
doing as
I'd
much
like
as
to
we
see
can.
that. Thank you.
They can buy them from Mahoney's.
Yeah, right next door. Right next door. All right, good. Thanks, Mark. Carl?
So is the amount of parking, is that determined by the need of the owner or by the planning board requirement, or?
Well, so it starts with zoning. Zoning specifies a certain amount of parking. This is a little bit of a strange use if you try to compare apples and apples to zoning, because we have the retail floor, and then the other two floors are really just storage.
Okay.
So we're asking actually for, I believe, we asked for a huge reduction from the planning board in parking, to the point where I think we are, let me look at the cover. We would have been required per zoning to have 87 spaces, and we have 52.
So it's already down.
So we brought it down because that was based on the specific use of V using the store, because he knows his employee, like these warehouse areas don't need employees. The employees are gonna be on the retail floor, where it's a retail use. So we basically provided enough for the retail use. And then those employees will go, up and down the stairs to get product.
I'm just getting at the back and the fine front, but, that's a lot of space in the back for parking, but.
You know what, we tried,
Yep.
so the other aspect of this is it does look like a lot of pavement. We tried 800 different ways of getting a fire truck around there and a loading truck. We need to have the ability to back in a tractor trailer truck to bring in product, and we
Yeah.
also need to have the ability for the fire department to get around. So we tried and tried and tried to slim this up.
That's a good question. When the truck's at the loading dock, how does the fire engine get in?
No, this is actually 20 feet by here.
So there's enough room?
Yeah. Yeah, and they reviewed it as part of planning board, but we really tried to make this as little as possible, but we need all that for the turning
Yeah.
movements.
Okay. I looked at it today, I was driving by and I said, ooh, that's tonight. I pulled in and it's. I'm
You
glad
get any
something-
nails in the
I'm
tires?
No, but I'm really glad something's being done. It's a disaster. Has been forever. How long ago was it active as a site? Any idea?
20 years?
Yeah, the gentleman that's using it right now has been like parking cars over
Right,
there
but I mean-
for the last couple of years, but yeah, I heard maybe the 80s was the last time it was used, I don't know.
Yeah.
Railroad salvage.
Right.
Yeah, Bill, I mean, it's been, I'm
trucks,
over 30
broken-
years in that neighborhood. So
It was railroad salvage, and they had a little store in there, you could buy groceries.
I remember going into that
appliances,
store when it was a
yeah.
canned goods
That's
store,
where you
and
get
I
your
moved up
kitchen
here in
stuff. There you go.
'93.
I don't remember it in my lifetime.
Yeah, I
I remember
don't-
being open and I was a lot, old enough to drive by than 93, so.
No, okay, I'm good, thanks.
All right, John?
Katie, all the roof drains are going to the front.
To the front.
That's, okay, how big's that area?
The roof?
No, the system you're putting in?
It ends up being 25 by almost 100.
Okay,
And they're the arches, so there's more
okay.
volume in them
Yeah.
than just typical pipe and stone.
okay.
Great.
Good, John?
I'm good.
Good. Mark, back to you.
Yeah, I just had a question on snow storage.
Huh?
And,
Not a lot, it's gonna have to go off-site.
Okay.
It's not a lot, they're gonna have
Saw
to
that.
store it and get it out of there.
okay. And I'd like to use something that wasn't sodium on the driveway, because everything, you think that area in the back would clean the water before it went into the wetlands? If you use the salt?
It's gonna, well, actually, there's no devices that capture salt. There's no devices that treat salt at this point. So the devices that we've proposed basically capture floatables. Out front, this stuff will go into infiltration. Back here, it'll go into infiltration, but most of the BMPs really just capture sand, salt, sediments, leaves, trash.
Is there any alternatives you can use for an agent on the driveways as opposed to using salt?
Yeah, I'm sure that there is. We're not in any kind of buffer zone to the river.
No, I know.
It's just floodplain, so it's just
Yeah.
when the water comes up that high.
And
Yeah, I think
I've done
we
like
should-
calcium chloride instead of sodium chloride.
Yeah, they have a
Okay.
a
Well,
We
brine.
can put that in as a,
I'd like to if we
condition.
could.
Yeah,
I could tell them that.
yeah. Anything else, John? Anything else?
They use a brine. You know, it's like a brine they use.
Oh, there is
Yeah.
one. The thing is that none of the stormwater BMPs remove those types
Right.
of soluble elements yet.
Right.
And North Chelmsford Water's okay with everything?
You commented on our water connections, so. I guess
Okay.
so.
And he didn't have any other, nothing?
Not any concerns, no, there weren't any concerns about
Okay,
filtration or anything like that. There were comments on the water connections and how. we
right, yeah. Okay.
Look for PFAS when you dig it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look at people.
All right, just a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public have any questions or comments for us? No public input. All right, so we have, the applicant is in with a notice of intent, so we're looking at standard order of conditions with some special conditions. I think one I heard was no salt was one of them, and then we had, Mr. Coon, did you have something for conditions?
About the SWIP, yes,
I used to Swift, yep.
and submitting reports.
And the snow is taken off, so.
And we need the snow to be off-site, okay? So we have a motion then for order of conditions?
I so move with the three additional conditions.
Okay, and a second on that?
Second.
All right, Bill on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed, unanimous. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you all very much.
All right, well, that takes us through our regulatory hearings for this evening. And now we go on to our discussion items, and first up, we have an update on Oddfellows. Yes.
Before we do that, could I just make a comment?
Yes.
The material that David provided us electronically is fantastic. We've never been able to get material electronically, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
It's very helpful.
Oh,
Don't have
thank
to
you.
wait till the last minute.
Oh, good to hear that.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that was good comment, Dave. Thank you. And we have some paperwork making its way down for signature. So back on the tonight's agenda here, we have an update on Oddfellows from our agent. So,
Sure.
Mr. Coons, if you give us an update on what's happening out at Oddfellows?
Well, Mr. Bayani has assured me that prior to the resumption of the demo work on the building, he will implement all of the pre-work steps that he has proposed in his work sequence, and he will contact me to do a site inspection to check those out again before any work on resumption of the demo begins.
Good. So we got it agreed to, and we got it in writing.
Yes.
Good, we're gonna hold
Is
him
it
to it.
okay to do that, quote, "off the books," unquote? Because we've issued an order of conditions, and now we're asking for something that's not specified in the order of conditions. Is that legal?
I think so,
Okay.
yes. I mean, it's...
Legal, I mean, we're just holding him to more, and they're agreeing to it.
Well,
so
I just
it's-
want to make sure.
I mean, I think
It
what
won't
makes it
come back.
legal is that it's been discussed and decided at a public meeting, you know? So I think that...
So we can, at any time, change our order of conditions after we voted on it?
No, that's not the case, but...
Effectively, that's what we're doing, right?
Well, I would call it a field change. That's, you know, which is something that's minor. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the update. Appreciate it. And just, we'll
So
continue this.
is he waiting for us to start work, or has he started work again? I don't know. I haven't been through the center.
No, I'm waiting for him to let me know
Okay.
when he's going to start it. And
Because I don't want us to be a holdup if that's the case.
No, he's not, so I think, I mean, at this point, I know he understands
Good.
what it is that's required in order for him to resume the demo work. Then he'll have to go through the same sort of thing when he starts the building renovation, so.
Good. So we'll keep this on and keep tracking it.
Okay, sure.
Thanks for the update on that one. And then the next one we have is the, if you could give us an update on the tree removal situation out of 14 Levitt Lane.
I haven't had a chance to do anything on that since the last meeting. My intent is to write a letter to the property owner expressing the concern and asking her to contact me to discuss it.
I like that idea. If you could get that out before our next meeting, that would be great. And then also, I think it might be good to add as well the contractor that was involved too.
Yes.
Because they've got responsibility in this whole situation.
Well, and it's...
Do we know who that was?
We do.
Is it Marty?
Yeah.
Or was it, he
Well,
subbed it out, though?
Right,
Yeah, but
but I've
Marty's
also,
is what you deal with.
I've also been given the name of the subcontractor, or what they think. But it's clear to me that, and I have to say, I haven't seen the site yet, but I've spoken to enough abutters at this point, enough neighbors to know that there was more than just tree cutting that went on, you know, substantially more than that. So-
I spoke to somebody on Friday and said that the site was pretty much clear cut and there was a massive amount of trees taken down.
Yeah.
Well, and stumps were removed, boulders were removed, there was extensive regrading, that's what I've been told, so,
Good. All right, well, we want to stay on top of this one.
sure.
All right, so we got land management report. All right. Darrell?
Yeah, so we do want to talk about an official site name, but I'm not sure we want to go through that right now. We don't really have a, but this is for Warren Poll. You know, we got to get the sign, but the sign, what are we talking, 4 to 6 weeks lead time?
4 to 6 week lead time.
Yeah,
Which-
5 weeks or something.
Yeah,
So
which-
it won't go in the ground probably until the spring.
Spring, so I'm okay
But
with.
some things,
let's put
but
that
Carl,
up.
but some things to think about. Warren Pole Farm Reservation, Warren Pole Reservation, Warren Reservation, Warren Farm. So at least in our mind, some combination of those words. So if you think about it while you're having a glass of wine on Christmas Eve, if you have nothing else to think about.
David was able to get the PO for the baseline documentation report submitted to Land Stewardship.
Right.
They will commence work in late February or March, doing that.
Very good.
Doing that work, so thank you very much for getting that done. Russell Mill, I forgotten about this, but Barry Moore, we talked about his trail snow groomer that he wants to use on the mountain bike trails out there. He would like to be able to use, to put that, store it in the shed that's in the front part, which is up in the front by the street, by the, which is our shed. And I'm fine with that. I don't have an issue with that. I am trying to connect with Phil Stanway on this, because I know Phil's using it for that conservation woodland garden area. So I need to double check with him, and I'll let Phil, but does anyone have any issue if we let him do that?
No.
He just doesn't want to have to cart it back and forth from his house.
No.
Because it's his own personal
And in the spring,
trail.
they'll take it
Tell
out.
him he can use
Yep,
it,
yep,
tell him
yep.
he can use it if he finishes the trail marking.
Yeah, yeah, right. And then with costs, I have been trying to connect with Phil, we just haven't been able to do it yet. Hopefully, before the next meeting, we'll spend a few minutes together and go through a number of issues that we have with costs to get some things done, including, I am gonna push to get some of the crew out to the Cranberry Bog Dam, to clear the vegetation that's on both sides of the dam, which is one of our open items from the work that we had done.
Good.
And it's not a big deal, we should be able to handle that, so, probably in the winter, or early spring before things bloom out, so.
Good.
That's all. It's
All right,
been
great.
actually kind of quiet.
Thanks, Carl, for the
Do you have
update.
anything else?
The only thing I'll add is that I think after the BDR is complete, I think maybe a more detailed, a survey, natural resource survey and inventory should be done, and then preliminary to a land management plan. Presumably the CR will have been, finalized
More-
and recorded that way.
More detailed than the one that was done.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can elaborate further at some point.
You think the one that was done is inadequate?
I don't think I think it's a good start for a land management plan, but I think, for instance, for a land management plan, I think you'd want a detailed survey of breeding birds, in the grasslands. If the proposal is to mow the property at least once a year, at the same time, encouraging and promoting grassland birds. I think you really need to know what's out there.
Okay, that's good.
Good. Well, thanks for the update. Let's just jump, I see we have a request for 3 certificates of compliance here. And Katie, you're still there, so let's see if we can take you in before the agent's report.
I appreciate that. Katie Unright with Howard Stein Hudson. So you probably don't know this yet, but Jay Finnegan's company is going to be purchasing the Santander Bank parcel next to Fisk House and next to Oddfellows. And in the title research, we found 3 open orders of conditions on the property, one dating back as far as 1983, which was the applicant was First Bank. We actually can't even find plans of that. So I wrote a request for certification on that one, just basically based on the existing conditions. I tried engineering, planning, and conservation, and no one has the plans. The second 2 are from 2004. One of them was filed on behalf of Mass Electric for the undergrounding project, which, as you guys know, didn't happen. So we'd like to close it out at least as it relates to our parcel, at a minimum. And then the third one related to when it was Sovereign Bank, and they did the site plan for Sovereign Bank in 2004, and that one wasn't closed out either. So for them to close on the property, we need to close out all 3 of those existing orders of conditions. And obviously, there's still one active on the property relative to the project that's currently going on now.
All right, well, thanks, Katie. And any concerns on that, Mr. Agent?
No.
Good. So let's take a vote then. On the 3 certificates. Can we do this with one vote, do you think?
Yes, I think so.
Well, let's do it with one vote. So can I have a motion to approve issuing the certificates of compliance?
So moved.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Dave. And any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. You're all set, Katie.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night. Happy holiday.
When the solar project went through there, they did a cross.
Katie, if you
Did
can
they
wait a
have to
few
apply for
minutes,
all
you
that
can
stuff
take
too?
these.
Okay.
As long as you, it's up to you.
When the sewer project went through the parking lot, and they did a cross-country over to Summer Street, did they have to apply for all the same things, or that's just a blanket that was given to them?
No, each section of the sewer, they were here.
Who's that sitting with her? Who's that sitting with her? Okay.
I think so.
Here's one, Dave. Number two.
Yeah,
Who's he?
real estate guy.
He's kind of, because Ben's in California, the AmeriCal Management Company is in California, so Fred is kind of their eyes and ears on the ground here. while Things are happening.
He was Edge Group, right?
He is Edge Group, yep.
Jay wasn't scared off? With that?
Apparently, well, he's gonna buy the parcel and that goes with the Santander lease, I guess.
Is the back parking lot part of that?
No. Nope. Nope.
He just wants to get closer to his neighbors.
It still bothers me, that whole project getting canned like that. It's such a loss.
Yeah. It was 6 years of my life. That's all I'll say.
Thank you.
I'm really sad. It does hurt though.
You still got paid.
You still got I know, but that's not why I do this. Unfortunately, I actually do this because I like seeing projects built.
So Mark, you and I can run for planning board, you know?
I'm sorry?
We can run for planning board.
Yeah, well, I think it was a, well, never mind, I'm not gonna get into that.
We're all being televised.
With special interest.
Yeah, we're on television.
We're on television here. Cameras are rolling.
Here you are? Or on planning board?
Yeah.
Oh, here you are too?
Yeah.
We're on now.
Big audience out there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I would have told. I figured you guys are still old school. I brought my board.
Yeah, we're old school, believe me.
Wow.
The liquor store's gonna be nice there.
It will. It will.
They're very convenient, you know? Yeah.
Well, particularly when you got 400 more units going up down the street.
The alcohol business is doing well.
Is he gonna close, the one in Vinyl Square is gonna close at that point, right?
I don't know. I thought that there was a change of hands with the liquor license.
Yes,
Right?
there was,
Yeah.
but not the building.
Not the building.
No, not the building. The
No,
light,
no. So I think I think the license from there goes to
yeah,
here.
so the guy that
Right.
has
I
his liquor
wasn't
store
involved
now.
in that, but yeah.
Yeah. Lives up in Scotty Hollow.
Yeah, I saw that. Counselor?
Yeah, but off of, next to Scotty Hollow. Yeah, he's
The
a
old
local guy.
Yeah. Nice guy.
All right, the next agenda item we have is agents report. Anything, Mr. Coons, you want to add on?
The only thing I'll add to that is, and I let you know this when I sent out the agenda, was I issued an emergency order of an emergency certification to remove a tree at 20 Russell Road,
Very
which
good.
was in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
It's the hearing we had tonight, so, and I think the reason probably the tree was being uprooted was because of high groundwater. So I think there is a legitimate concern
Sure.
about that issue up there.
Good night, Katie.
Bye.
Merry
Everyone,
Christmas.
thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Katie, could you please email me the book and page numbers
I will.
when they record it? Thank you.
Good.
I wonder why the residents don't get together and try to get that street approved.
Yeah.
Gotta make too many improvements on it to get it approved,
Well,
right?
David, one thing we mentioned
Drainage.
last meeting would be good to follow up on for us is the whole, the numbers, the finance, the budget, kind of the fees, and
Oh, okay.
running that down, kind of, where's the money going from the filing fees, and what do we have for
Yeah, remember
budget and all that, Dave?
It's my understanding that the wetland fees do not go 100% to the Conservation Commission. You brought it to our attention, that's against the law.
It is.
I looked up the regs, and I agree with you. The law is very clear that any fees from any wetland permit fees goes into a special account for conservation.
Mhm. Yeah, yes.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's been that way for at least 25 years.
Well, the way I think that's best handled is to just get regular reports of the activity in that account, and I actually have spoken to the accounting office about that, and I've been promised that I will be sent monthly reports. So
But you may only see the net, if I'm correct, which I don't know, you may only see the net number in there.
No, I should see the activity, which means I should see each deposit and each debit. So if I see any debit that I can't explain, I will definitely look into it.
Dave loves that debit credit stuff, so.
I'm just waiting for Dave Coons to explain to all of us the CPC accounting.
The CPC accounting, not that one.
There's no such thing. That's a misnomer.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right, well, good. So if you could follow up on that, that would be great. We have one, was it 1 minute, December 7th?
Yeah, I haven't written them yet.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't see him.
I was going to say.
No, it's been just really
Okay.
super busy. Sorry.
Bacon cookies for Christmas?
I can give you candy.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Well, I don't see any.
All right, then a motion to adjourn, please.
Someone.
A motion to adjourn by Dave McLaughlin, a seconded
Aye.
by Chris Tamula. All those in favor, aye?
Aye, aye.
Thank
off the
you.
TV.
We're now turning our...